Veneti are once again asking for your support in this glorious online Divide et Impera battle as we go toe-to-toe with the Seleucids beneath the pyramids, of course. I mean, what a beautiful image to have a battle, and it's going to be one hell of an engagement. I mean, just look at the scale. This kind of looks like something off of Time Commanders. There are so many men ready to fight and die. I believe there's roughly like 16,000 soldiers, and it's going to be a difficult one for sure. The Veneti are obviously a DLC faction. They're not really best equipped to deal with a powerhouse like the Seleucids, but one of the things I love about Divide et Impera is that any faction really has the chance to win any battle if the player uses their units right. So it's going to make for a very interesting battle, and I can't wait to see what they're capable of. We did see in the last episode the majority of the Veneti army, and we are seeing some of the Seleucids now coming into view. But we'll just take a quick look at their army on their front line. We're going to have these hoplite Veneti as kind of like their main bastion, holding that front line down. Some pre-Roman era hoplites, so this is when the hoplites were king. That's going to kind of be their main front line. They also have some units of cavalry as well scattered throughout the battlefield. Some pretty skilled riders able to do some hammer and anvils and devastate the heavily armored pikes from the Seleucids. Again, some more units scattered throughout this formation. On their back ranks, they do have a handful of these archers. Again, nothing to write home about. However, they do have 165 range, which is a little bit lower than the Cretan archers, and they're not as heavily armored. So it's going to be a difficult missile fight, but that's not really where Veneti do shine. These are Hastati infantry, going to be super scary, heavily armored infantry, and obviously their swords, once they get stuck in, oh baby, that is going to be pretty scary. 11 melee attack, 15 melee defense, 25 weapon damage. That's not bad whatsoever. They also get a bonus against infantry and a free armor piercing. We'll compare that to some of these Seleucid units that are now coming into view, so we can get a good idea about them. On the front line, we have some Greek slingers. This is one of my favorite Seleucid units, is the Greek slingers. You can see they have 190 range, which is pretty standard for any slinger unit, but they're just a cheap, effective unit that I used frivolously in my campaign against Darren in our head-to-head. Super scary. Another almost insanely good unit. We have the Seleucid silver shields right here. 9 melee attack, 16 melee defense, a big old armor value. Their weapon damage is getting reduced. I'm not sure what is doing that, what is giving the debuff. So this isn't Warhammer, so there's going to be no magic at play. But even still, these silver shields will hold the line to the bitter end. They are absolutely amazing. And I mean, one of the main strengths to the Seleucids is their units just don't break. However, they do only have 52 morale, which isn't crazy. Like that's like legionary morale, which is still good, but not like Eagle cohort style morale. So they're going to be some pretty scary units. We also have some Seleucid hoplites. One of the things as well you guys got to keep in mind is that the Seleucid player, if he's gone with this very heavy elite army, which it looks like he has, it means he's going to be getting outnumbered on the battlefield. You can already see it starting to look like that. Like the Seleucids are very heavily in one section of the battlefield in the center, which will provide so many opportunities for the Veneti to come around. Again, as someone who's played DEI, set like loads and loads, hundreds of hours in DEI, I can tell you that I've lost plenty of battles against Republic of Play or anyone else I play against, because I've got a very elite army, and he just has the numbers to envelop me. That's one of the amazing things about DEI. Numbers feel like they matter, and they feel like they count in a battle, because if you get a unit enveloped, it doesn't really matter how good the unit is. As soon as it starts taking casualties, as soon as it starts getting tired, regardless of whether or not it is a silver shield, eagle cohort, them units will maybe hold a bit longer, but they will inevitably break, and that's one of the strengths of DEI. Numerous hordes feel like hordes, and they feel like they can get the job done even against elite armies. So it's going to be pretty much the Seleucid army. Again, hoplites on the flanks, which I kind of like. You've got a very sturdy line of pikes in the center, which are going to be obviously supported by these hoplites, and then you've got some heavy shock infantry coming in. Obviously as well, a key to the Seleucid army is going to be their cavalry, which we can't quite see yet. They've got some cavalry in the center. I assume they have way more horse than this. So we have some shock cavalry, again, super scary, not something that you're going to really want to go toe-to-toe without infantry support. But the Veneti do have access to light spears that can support these guys pretty effectively. And it seems so right now, it seems like the Veneti are going to have to assault this formation, because again, these slingers are going to throw off a whole wealth of rocks at the opponents. And this is one of the advantages, I guess, for the Seleucids for going with these cheaper slingers. is that they know they're not going to come up against Cretan archers, but they're playing a DLC faction who won't have access to mercenary Cretan archers, Rhodian slingers, so they know for the most part their missile ability isn't going to be as crazy, so they can kind of invest in these cheaper units, such as the Greek slingers, and then spend that, that extra 400, 500 gold on more pikes, on more silver shields, and other stuff along them lines. However, it does seem like the Veneti are getting closer and closer, trying to scare them off. And the Veneti know that is the case as well. They've gone for barely any missiles themselves. They have 4 units of missiles, really just to provide them with some support. And that's about it. And they're basically just going to advance up here, weather the storm, and just try and get their front lines engaged. Obviously, they have to be very careful about the pikes, but I feel like in PvP, pikes are extremely difficult to use. If you know how to play against them, which I think a lot of people do, and you just don't engage them, they become very dangerous. So basically, just kind of wait off like right here, and you just be like, yeah, bro, if you want to attack me, be my guest. But whilst your pikes aren't doing anything, I put 3 units here, holding up 5 of your pikes, and then all that other time, you've got other stuff happening, and then eventually, the Seleucid player has to make a decision. He either has to charge these pikes forward and get out of position, kind of disrupt his formation, or he has to just sit there. And then if he ever decides to move his pikes and maybe support a flank, that opens up a perfect charge for you to then come flying in. So, pikes are very difficult. They do what they're supposed to do. They basically area deny a position, but a lot of the time, the area denial is an expensive unit that you're just not using. That's like 4,000 gold. That's like, a good 5 to 10% of your army you're just not using and not getting that money's worth. So it's going to be pretty deadly, and I love the way the Veneti have set up in this checkered board fashion, obviously going up against a very slow and unmobile army. I think is a really smart move. Getting as many javelins off as well, just trying to whittle down the Seleucid hoplite line, so when their infantry does inevitably clash with them, they'll have a bit of an easier job. That kind of HP shield, as we like to call it, has already been taken off, and then the swords can just get stuck in. Out of interest, how good are these spears? So 8, 11, 21, up against 7, 17, armor value 28 against armor value 20. So they're not as good as, like, Seleucid hoplites, but they're obviously much lighter. And they do have the extra bonus against elephants, which is nice. And obviously the charge will be pretty deadly as well. So, yeah, I don't think the Veneti are, like, completely outclassed here. I definitely think the Seleucids have a big advantage, don't get me wrong. But I don't think the advantage in this battle is as crazy as you may think looking at this battle. Both sides are really trying to win this missile fight. And we'll start the camera and go down the battle line as well, because it does look very cool. Both sides are trying to at least inflict some damage on this missile fight, but the Veneti must know that they're not going to win this one. They have been, pretty beneficial at killing 1 or 2 of these archer units, and obviously every missile unit you do take down does desperately help in the battle. But we are seeing, gaps appearing. This is one of the strengths of the Veneti battle line, is that they've gone very aggressive here at, like, kind of stretching the Seleucids. The Seleucids just don't have the numbers to meet up with this. So a unit like this is going deep behind enemy lines. You may think this is a suicide mission right now, but the thing is, this is designed to disrupt the Seleucid formation. It's designed to basically, kind of just force the player to micro, force them to use javelins, force them to, try and deal with this, gaping hole, which will open up positions elsewhere. The Seleucids are shifting a large amount of their lighter infantry over to this left-hand side, getting that javelin volleys off, and then going to get stuck in. And this is the type of unit the Veneti really want to try and kill, because this is like a 300-man unit, or yeah, these are 300-man units that the Veneti units can wipe the floor with. They can desperately take care of these guys and not have to worry too much about them. This is the type of fighting that these spears would desperately want to get engaged on. As you can see, 9-12 against the veteran Veneti noble spearmen have a 21 melee defense, which will just decimate the swords, especially with cavalry support or anything else. And I love the way the Veneti also are getting some great javelin volleys off out of the woods as well onto these extremely valuable horses. Again, not killing any of them quite yet, but every kill on these horses would be absolutely insane. We are getting finally some infantry engagements as well over on this left-hand side. We have some of these Seleucid swords set up. Both sides, I guess, not wanting to fully engage and not opening up their flanks quite yet, which is understandable. The Veneti are continuing to outflank their opponents to the best of their abilities. Again, just really trying to stretch them. And as I said, like, killing these lighter melee infantry, that should be the first initial thing. Ignore the center. It's not something you can really handle. And they really should try and do that whilst these missiles are still focusing down the missiles of Veneti, because that's not going to be there around forever. And inevitably, that is going to end up being a pretty big factor. Having Sling of Fire constantly come in is going to be pretty dangerous. And there we go. We have them noble spearmen engage against the lighter Greek infantry. And now they are going to be throwing in sword and shield, spear and shield. And generally, you normally see a lot of the spears losing these engagements, but this time I think this unit is heavily armored enough to slowly grind them down and then open up a big gaping hole. And you can just already see the mobility of the Veneti line coming into play. However, this unit of cavalry is getting peppered by Sling of Fire, which is pretty scary. And yeah, here we go, another charge about to come flying in. This is a medium melee infantry. This is an axe infantry unit coming in. But again, that's still got 8 melee attack, not bad. And again, they're going up against the lighter infantry right here, who aren't really well equipped. They are the Cretan Special Regiment of Renown, I believe. I call it Regiment of Renown. It's more like an area of recruitment unit. Who definitely can get the damage done, but their morale is what really lets them down. And I think we're going to be getting several units roaming around against them. So you need to be very careful. And again, I really like the play here just to avoid engaging in these slower melee engagements against the pikemen, against the hoplites. It's just battles that you're going to struggle to win, and you only really want to engage them when you have to, when they're threatening another position. So I like this really standoffish focus on the flanks and try and kind of create a gap somewhere there. Again, pretty good engagement with Veneti. Obviously fighting against probably one of the best infantry units in the game, the Silver Shield Swordsmen. However, they're fighting hoplites, and this is going to slow them up. They're not going to win this battle, but it's going to slow them up and keep this very expensive unit occupied. So I very much like that. The Seleucids, though, are moving their cavalry round. Oh, a nice charge here by the Veneti coming in there out of the woods. And again, something you guys might not know as well is that the line of sight in DEI is extremely, I guess, harsh, for lack of a better word. If you're in a forest, you can actually set up an efficient ambush, which is so amazing. It's so good. You know, you're basically going to be within 2-3 meters of a unit before realizing that the unit itself is there, if they're hiding in a forest. And obviously, the lighter they are, the better they are at hiding. So it really means you can do cavalry charges like this. You can hide in units and take advantage of that. And you can already see the morale dropping down from these Seleucid hoplites from that cavalry charge. Is inflicting some pretty dangerous stuff. And again, that's going to kind of have a knock-on effect to these lower morale for your swordsmen who only have 43 morale. Like, that's not great. That is not a great morale. And if you get yourself enveloped, as more cavalry does move in to try and help out in the fight over on this right-hand side, which is currently going on, you know, it's going to be pretty scary, yeah. A lot of the Veneti cavalry moving around against the Seleucids, which is super, super nice. Again, you can see the disruption. The Seleucids are now forced to throw their pikemen forward, which again, could, if they're microing, you know, perfectly, you would just immediately charge into this. I mean, already, these pikemen have gone way too far forward now, as it's allowed the Veneti swords to basically be fighting them. The strength of pikes is you keep your enemy at range, and you really don't want them to get close. Luckily, these are silver shields, so they can kind of handle this, but even still, Veneti do have a good chance to do some damage to them. But they're just going to take the smarter play. I love to see this. They're just going to fall back. If the Seleucids want to keep on coming at you, look at the gaps that have already been created, right? You know, they could choose to stay in here, or at least just hold the line here and just move this unit around. Because again, that's something you don't have to do. You don't have to engage on the front. You can just stand off and be like, yeah, I'm going to hold just out the side of your attack range. This unit's then going to come around and hit you. If you turn to fight this unit, then the unit that's holding will then push forward. Like, that's how you can just outplay pikes so effectively, and I think it is super scary. Speaking of something being super scary, we have the very, very scary elephants. Armored, I think, Indian elephants moving around the flank. Some archers on top as well, popping off shots as best they can onto Veneti. Not going to be racking up any kills. Well, a kill or two, you know, isn't going to be too scary. They're going to be moving around. Obviously, they're going to be in range of javelin fire. That's why the Astarte are being brought out here. It's because they can throw in a couple javelins, which will, you know, take down that HP barrier, take down maybe an elephant or two. And again, they do have a pretty decent, maybe an 11 bonus against elephants. So they'll fight decently against them. So bringing the Astarte out, not a bad idea. The worst case scenario is getting this cavalry tied down by elephants, as elephants do pretty effectively take care of them. And as you can see, they're trying their best to handle this pike line, getting a really nice charge there off into the side of the pikes. That's very, very nice, able to kill a handful of them as they have to fall back. And yeah, it's stuff like that which will really win you a battle against the Seleucids and against a Greek faction. Hammer and anvils like this are also great right into the back of the pikemen. That is devastating, or of the hoplites, right? It's a hoplite unit. Yeah, these cavalry engagements from Veneti, really nice work here. Able to send a handful of the Seleucids packing. What's the Seleucid cavalry really doing right now? Did it got moved? Oh, it's got trapped, that's why. Yeah, it got trapped by the forest. I mean, that's one of the dangers of going into the forest, is that you find yourself, one, not knowing where enemy units are, because again, there could be a unit probably stationed in about here, and the Seleucids wouldn't see it, because it's like crouched in the high grass, moving through the forest. That's how the DEI stuff works, so they probably can't see this unit right now. So that's probably, you know, going into this forest has been pretty dangerous. The elephants are going to be moving in, though. Again, a pretty strong unit to be throwing in. And that's right into the cavalry as well. As I said, they will slaughter this cavalry. That's generally how I like to play my elephants in a battle, is I generally keep them away from the front lines, because that's when they die. That's when someone says, oh, a big juicy target, I'm going to throw all my javelins at that. I'm going to throw everything I've been holding back for these. I like to keep them on the flank, a bit further away from the main fight, and just use them to help me win cavalry fights. You know, just have an extra unit of elephants there to support my 3-4 units of horse, and it normally works out for me. Normally I tend to win these cavalry fights. Speaking of an unwinnable fight, you can see like this, a very heavy Galatian 4-axe sword unit just broke at half strength because it was completely enveloped, it was getting tired, and it's, you know, it's just dropped. There was no morale support, there was no allies coming in to help them. They just broke, and that's one of the great things about DEI. You may think that's a bit silly, an elite unit breaking like that, but it just fits into like the way DEI battles run, and it's one of my favorite things. I don't want to just be like, oh, I've automatically lost this battle because there's a very elite unit I can't kill. No, that's stupid. Human psychology plays a factor. You could be the strongest veteran unit. You're completely surrounded. You're being cannoned. There's no way you'd want to fight. You would run into the sea to drown yourself, like many veterans did do at the Battle of Cannae. You know, that does play a factor. And being enveloped for a long time, you're starting to get tired, there's no hope. Screw it, I'm out. Obviously, there are many situations in history where that didn't happen and they did fight to the last, but that's not my point. My point is that it's very plausible that something like that would happen, especially in an ancient battle. Majority of the time, units routed in historical battles, rather than them dying. Generally, in an ancient battle, you'd lose roughly between 20 and 30% of your army if you were losing and it was a decisive defeat. The pikes are coming in now, and again, one of the strengths of these pike units. However, again, opens up a lot of play around here. Speaking of which, though, the cavalry have managed to make them with there. The Seleucid cavalry, I think I completely missed this. The Seleucid cavalry must have made like a dive through the center, maybe, onto the Veneti back line. And that's going to be pretty scary, because one, they've got onto this unit of cavalry, going to be doing a good job at killing them. I say that, though, the Veneti cavalry outmatched. I assume it got charged by the heavier shot cavalry, holding its own. Pretty effectively. Now, these elephants can make their way in and help out. More of the Veneti are up here as well, trying to scare off some of this cavalry. I mean, it looks pretty scary. Bounce power bar is in favor of the Seleucids, and maybe their quality will just rise. They're really trying to get involved in this fight, and I think that's definitely a smart idea. If you could break this unit of cavalry, it frees up so many units to move in. However, Veneti are still committing more men. They managed to do a great job of enveloping this unit on the left flank with the cavalry charge, and again, this unit is ill-supported, so this will break them inevitably. It will take a little bit of time, but they will break. However, the center, as we always expected, has been ripped apart by the Seleucids. Their superior quality in this center ranks, you know, these are the veteran forces for them, and they've just held their own. And even on the left-hand side as well, fighting against some cavalry units, which infantry should slowly win against. They're still even struggling against that. Because that fatigue is a double-edged sword, and as you can see, they're already tired, so they're fighting at 70% of their strength, which gives the cavalry a much better chance of getting, winning them engagements. And just kind of these tankier units, which can be broken, are just kind of being more point efficient right now. They have kind of that quality. A rear charge would probably finish these guys off. They're exhausted. They're fighting at half strength right now. A rear charge would probably finish these guys off. But they're just outlasting, and without any other external factors, the Seleucids will win. However, we are seeing some cavalry moved around, and I'd love to see this cavalry unit coming in to save these guys. It means you could then rest these guys, or maybe even just going into this as well would be super, super nice. I obviously need to be careful of Seleucid cavalry making their way over. But there's a lot of cavalry here, which could definitely win, literally win this flank now. Very, very effectively, and that would free up way more men in the center. But look at this super scary blob. Oh, that is a super scary blob of Seleucids now completely freed up. No, I take that back. I take that completely back. It's actually the Veneti who managed to come out on top, charging in against the Seleucids. Wow, really nice work. I guess that's, again, having that infantry there was a big help, and they managed to rout the elephants, which honestly aren't too hard. And now that instead of going through these fights on the flanks, they are looking to try and kill this cavalry. Which, again, it's not a bad plan, just trying to cut the head off the snake. As the main strength of the Seleucids, is that heavy, heavy Alexandrian cavalry. I mean, the Seleucids are a well all-rounded unit, but still, you kill this cavalry, that gives you a big, big play. Oh, and nice, they've managed to break them. Yeah, the Seleucids line is starting to look pretty shaky, honestly. All this infantry is now freed up, and they can sit down and get some rest, maybe march around a little bit, and then send their reinforcements, or they could just rush in and try and help out this cavalry fight. Maybe try and get a kill off onto the Seleucid general would not be a bad idea, but with these added reinforcements now, that's going to be pretty scary. Pretty scary indeed. More reinforcements turning up, and yeah, you can see these numbers playing such a huge role. They're able to get these envelopments on the hoplites, on the pikes. And that's what's literally winning them the battle. If they took this battle from the front, there's no way they would have won. But they've used their numbers effectively, and as you can see, it makes such a difference. It creates these losing fights to being a winning fight. And now they actually have a pretty good chance. If they need to win this battle, I'll be impressed. But the Seleucids are no slouch. And now all this cavalry as well, still being alive. That's huge, man. That really is. And I think they're just going to commit everything to this fight. Try and kill the enemy general. And allow that to cascade through the ranks and end it. We are getting more forces being sent in. A unit being redeployed from the fight. There's anything here, but again, more cavalry, more infantry coming in. I'd maybe cut my losses and try and get my general out of here. Again, he'll take heavy casualties as he does pull out, but if you leave him in here, he is definitely dead, and there is no escape whatsoever for him. And they've also managed to win this far extreme right flank as well. So all these units, when he does realize, will start to make their way back over. Yeah, I mean, the center has been ripped apart. But the flanks are looking... I say the flanks are looking good, but over on this side, more reinforcements are turning up. A smaller unit of Seleucids are arriving, and maybe some routed units that have come back have also turned up. But again, I just don't think they have the quality right now. These Silver Shield Pikes, again, are surrounded. They'll hold for some time, but they will inevitably go down, and they will be taking casualties. So again, you can take a surround on a pike unit like this, and it'll take a while to kill, but this is much better than engaging. You'll never kill them from the front. So really nice, and as I said, that's kind of what you want to do on these pikes, is you want to get them out of position like this, or a cavalry charge coming in, probably to see off what remains of this Seleucid unit right now. Yeah, I think Veneti are going to turn this battle around. It was looking pretty grim for them. The balance of power bar was in favor of the Seleucids, but now they flee from them. The pyramids have definitely been satisfied this day. And they're quickly just trying to reform. Their general is going to be torn apart in a second, and I think that's probably going to be GG. Once that general goes, there's going to still be some killing left to do. But I imagine that killing will be satisfied momentarily as morale takes hold. Sheer army attrition that is still there will also take place, and yeah, the Seleucids won't have anywhere to go. So really impressive fighting there from Veneti. Really impressive fighting, considering they are a DLC faction who doesn't have the vast variety of the Seleucids. Pretty good. Obviously, they have been balanced to be able to play against them. But even still, it's not bad stuff whatsoever. Not bad stuff at all. And able to come flying in there. Yeah, soon to rip up that. And there's just so many soldiers left remaining. The Pikes are still going to get stuck in. Again, the Pikes have still managed to do their job. They've got like 100 kills on a bunch of them. 90 kills. So they maybe haven't made like completely back their money. But they've definitely done a decent enough job to where it's yeah, been efficient enough. Now this unit of elite thorax swords, or silver shield swordsmen, going to get cavalry charged there. Not bad. Pretty decisive charge right there. Trampling on the soldiers on the ground as well, as they get stuck in. The cavalry wrap up this fine, and it's probably pretty much GG. But I mean, even at this point, you still see the strength of the Seleucids. Like, they're heavily outnumbered, they're surrounded, and yet they're still able to put up such a scary deterrent for the rest of the battle. Whereas, like, they're still holding, you know, they still haven't given up on this day quite yet. As again, these Pikes are forced to turn around whatever way they can. It's really just a Jenga block of Pikes now, which would just be devastating in real life. Imagine you just wouldn't be able to flick your Pike around anywhere, right? Because there'd just be other Pikes in the way. I mean, by this point, they would have definitely dropped their Pikes and pulled out their swords. That'd be a pretty interesting mechanic, honestly, for Pikes, if they ever did a roam free. That'd be pretty interesting. Because, like, you could have it as, like, a deployable, almost, you know? In the sense of, like, a siege tower, where you click the button and you drop the siege tower. For a unit of Pikes, or like you dismount from a horse, for a unit of Pikes, maybe you do just drop the Pike and pull out your swords and get stuck in that way. And then you could maybe go pick them up again, or is there like a one-time use once you drop them, that's it? That'd be pretty interesting, like a way of like getting away from being completely outflanked. But maybe that just is unnecessary and it's not something you need to do. And Pikes have been so glorious. Silver Shields, absolutely amazing unit. As they continue to, I mean, this guy's had enough of the battle. He's looking away. As they just try and take down as many of their opponents before, I assume, they surrender. Taking down as many of the enemy as possible, and look at that, the bubble is forming around them. I think it is literally, yeah, just a handful of Pikes still left remaining. Only 30 seconds left out of the battle, so that's going to be GG. So big shout out to the guys who sent this replay into me. This was taken from the Colosseum training for the tournament that's going to be taking place on that Discord. I'll make sure I link the Discord down below in the description if you want to find more people to play DEI with. This is a great community, so I highly recommend you guys check it out. And hopefully I'll be getting way more replays when the tournament actually does start. Yeah, look at that, over 15,000 men, literally just for 15,000 men. Not bad whatsoever. And look at the kills as well on these heavy spearmen. You don't really get to see a lot of kills on the spearmen generally, but they did a very good job. And the Greek cavalry just couldn't quite get stuck in. Like, they had Persian mercenaries, just couldn't quite do the job. Obviously, the archers doing amazing, and the Pikes making their worth. And I mean, look at that unit, 400 kills on the silver shield swords. Deadly stuff. But massive GG to the players, big shout out to them, and I'll see you guys in the next one.